Yo YouTube, GK's back with another video, and this is my top 7 reasons that give me fear for the Final Fantasy VII Remake. They're in order of fear factor, and it's not to say, let me give you a disclaimer here, I am totally pumped for this game. I support it 100%, but that doesn't mean I'm afraid of a few things, and here's 7 of them. So, number 7, it will be 10 years before this whole series is completed. Remember, official production for Final Fantasy VII Remaster started in 2015. However, you, I'm sure, know that the game has been teased in trailers and unofficial wordings that it's been a lot longer than that. Now, it's gonna play into my number 5 reason as to why as well, but a long development cycle for completing the whole story of Final Fantasy VII comes in at number 7 because I can wait for good art, but I can't wait that long. Number 6, we will not spend enough time outside of Midgar. This is a huge fear I have because Final Fantasy VII is rich with many areas that aren't Midgar related. And it's already been stated that the first installment here will basically take place in Midgar. It is very rich in area, and there's tons of areas we can explore that we didn't explore in Final Fantasy VII, but that should not take away from all of the other areas. Cutting even just one area from the game can tell a lot about the game. Not to say that some things can't be cut and some things can't be revised. I'm simply saying the scale of Final Fantasy VII is massive, and a lot of people forget that because the focus now is just on Midgar. Number 5, this is the tie-in I was talking about. It's episodic. I'm scary of episodic games. The list is few and far between good games that come out in episodes. Telltale is a moderately successful, if not very successful, episodic franchise, but they went under. So realize that series died off. Episodic installments has never really caught on to mainstream, and it never has really proven that it can release great content consistently with each episode. However, I do think Final Fantasy VII is taking the episodic idea a lot differently, and it is my hope that they will be releasing full games with the episodes. But that might be something else we cover. So number 4, this is a huge one as well. They might cut canon. Everybody's got to realize that Final Fantasy VII is not just one video game. There was a movie. There was a Dirge of Cerberus, a video game. There was a PSP game, Crisis Core. There is a lot of story and lore here that you can easily explore as you can easily cut from this new game. Either way, I'm super excited. I think some of the things from Dirge of Cerberus can definitely be used. I think some of the things from Crisis Core can definitely be used. However, once you start fudging with some of this canon that is very loose and yet somehow tight, I'm not saying it has to be in the first installment. I'm simply saying cutting canon never really goes well for a franchise. My number 3 is a worry because of the type of game this is. As much as I love the battle system, I fear that it'll be too easy. Stopping time mid-fight is really cool. They did that in Final Fantasy 15. I never actually used it or did it, and I thought there was no need for it. I didn't think Final Fantasy 15 was too easy. It was that it was more painstakingly to be good at the game, whereas you can be bad and go down every 2 seconds and use a potion, or you want to get good at the game. However, Final Fantasy is not necessarily known for a hard mode in their games. Now, this is an action type of game. If you've seen the gameplay, it's very reminiscent of Crisis Core and very reminiscent of Kingdom Hearts. Kingdom Hearts has a hard mode. Now, to me, you have to have that hard mode because I'm a gamer who wants to play the game on hard, especially since Final Fantasy VII. Why not play it on its hardest difficulty, if there is one? That battle system looks amazing, don't get me wrong. However, it is still a fear that the game will be too easy and too welcoming to newcomers. Final Fantasy XV had the benefit of being a new Final Fantasy that we hadn't really seen in a long time, so it was allowed to have that tagline for newcomers and returning fans. Final Fantasy VII should not have that tagline. I'm not saying it's good or bad, I'm just saying that Final Fantasy VII should not have that tagline. My number 2 reason, we gotta go a little more in depth here. The mature content and the in-depth nature of Final Fantasy VII might be cut. For example, in Midgar, a whole section gets destroyed. Presumably hundreds, if not thousands of people die. Or we have the scene where you're in kind of getting fed false media, and your town, which was, I'm blanking on the name right now, the town of Nibelheim, there we go, was influctuated and ingested with fake actors to make the city seem like it was okay. Those kind of themes or the date scenes, for example, that Cloud gets to go on a date with Barrett, or can go with Tifa, right? Like some of those things, some of those mature contents, the robot, be very hard to translate now. I'm afraid that some of the visceralness of Sephiroth might get lost. Some of those death scenes might get lost. ESRB ratings, as you guys know, with the NBA 2K fiasco right now, they can be a little fickle in terms of what they allow people to show. Do I think Final Fantasy VII should be rated mature? No. However, if you look at the original Final Fantasy, it was very mature. Now, I don't want to see that dumbed down. That's another fear I have. And it's validated because you're really only showing Midgar. Midgar is probably one of the places that has the most mature content in terms of scale, because the area is so big. And if you don't show us that, I'll be disappointed, even though they've already said they're going to go more into Avalanche. But you can easily dumb down the Avalanche story as they're not a bunch of terrorists, they're now freedom fighters. You see how there's a difference there? It's a fear I have. And really, the number one, if you know anything about Final Fantasy VII, you know Aerith dies. Aerith has to die in this remaster as well. I don't understand, nor do I want to understand, the counter argument for her living, because Aerith not dying takes away the heart and soul of this game. There's a whole generations that didn't play this game, especially the younger generation who are only used to loot boxes and first-person battle royale shooters. This could be a good opportunity to get people into RPGs and what they're all about. And the only way to really drive home the point for everybody is to have Aerith still die. Yeah, it's sad, it sucks. You can have her come back in spirit form like she kind of was hinted at in the original game. However, she still must die. And if anything, it should be even more high def now, and look really visceral and look really, all the emotion strings should hit even harder. So those are my 7 reasons why I'm kind of afraid of the Final Fantasy VII remaster. I'm going to go over them briefly again right at the end. Number 7 was, it'll be 10 years or over that it'll all be completed. Huge, big deal. Number 6 was, we will not spend enough time outside of Midgar. Again, there are so many places rich in the world that I definitely want to see in that high def fidelity, and not exploring it will be a really big shame. Number 5, it is episodic. These episodic episodes, I guess I forgot to say it before, that we're going to pay full price for a game that isn't full length. That's also a huge fear I have as well with it being episodic. And the history of episodic games as a whole. Does it really work? Can it really work? And will I feel satisfied by the amount of content I get for what I'm presuming is going to be a full price game? I'm not 100% sure, but there's no reason to indicate that it won't be full price. They have said it will be a large game, but are you going to start playing with what we all think is a large game worth the $60 title and have episodes? It's a fear. Number 4 was, they might cut the canon. realize that we have tons and tons of Final Fantasy VII lore and canon, and cutting canon is never a good thing in a series. Always should play off their canon and expand on it, or retweak it a little bit to make more sense in the modern era of gaming. Just know that Final Fantasy VII is super rich. Number 3, the battle system and the game might be too easy. I love the battle system, don't get me wrong. I'm just afraid that it'll be too easy. I don't want to play an easy game, I want it to be hard. That's personal preference. Number 2, the more mature content will be cut from the game. As I've already explained, some of these scenes, some of the visceral nature of Sephiroth, some of the dating scenes, some of the technology, robot scenes, some of the cloning scenes, some of the mass murders, the disinformation, that stuff will be cut or dumbed down for the audience and not expanded upon in its entirety and in depth like the game had originally hinted at. And the number 1 reason, Aerith will live. Those are my 7 top reasons why I am afraid of the Final Fantasy remaster. Coming up, or at some point in the future, I will do a 7 reasons why I am super excited for Final Fantasy VII remaster. But for now, let some of these ideas sink in. Throw it in the comments. Let's have a discussion about why these aren't fears at all. And we can have a dialogue. I'm all about dialogues on the channel. Thanks for liking and subscribing. Disclaimer again, I am totally pumped and happy and excited for this game. Do not get me wrong. I'm GK. Stay tuned for another video. It's always on the way.